Hello, welcome to Kitchen Basics 101, where I teach you the bare bone basics as if you've never cooked a day in your life from the perspective of a mom. I love this question and I was giving it a lot of thought. Like, obviously we can make turkey burgers and we can make bolognese meat sauce with ground turkey. You can really do anything with ground turkey you can do with ground beef. You could make a turkey meatloaf instead of a ground beef meatloaf. But today I'm going to make turkey meatballs, and I'm going to make them the same way that I make my ground beef meatballs, with maybe a couple of tiny little substitutions, and we're going to see how they turn out. I think that the turkey is going to need just a little bit of extra fat and a little extra salt and a little extra flavor, because the ground turkey has a little bit less of that. Now, if you're using the turkey in order for it to be a leaner protein, then just don't add the cheese, right? Because if your thought is like, well, I'm not eating the ground beef because I want it to be leaner, then just don't add the cheese. Parmesan cheese is so hard, it's so hard to grade, that it's so tempting to buy it grated, right? Like, softer cheeses are easier, but this is like hard. But not in this thing. This thing makes such quick work. This is a 1 pound container of 93% lean turkey. Turkey tends to be a little bit drier than ground beef. So we're gonna put 2 eggs in here as our binder. Plus, eggs do add a little bit of fat. Or seasoned breadcrumbs. So these breadcrumbs have all the stuff in them, like they're seasoned already. And they have Romano cheese, and they have salt and garlic powder and onion powder and all that good jazz. So that's gonna serve as our main seasoning. So I'm gonna put, like, I don't know, 1/4 cup, 1/2 cup, some breadcrumbs in there. Moms don't measure, you know how it is. And then I'm just gonna put 1 handful of my grated Parmesan, and then I'm gonna mix that up and see how that consistency is. So, I mean, the best tool you have is your hands. So I'm just going to mix it up with my hands and see where we're at consistency wise. The general rule of thumb is you don't want to overwork meat, because it can tend to be tough if you do too much to it. So that's one of the reasons that hands are such a good tool, is it makes just much quicker work. Okay, to me, this is too wet. So I'm gonna add a little more breadcrumbs, but first I'm gonna have to go wash my hands so that I can do that, because my hands are all. Put a little more breadcrumb in there because I think it's just a little bit too moist. Gotta mix. I think that consistency will hold together better. But it would have been probably fine the other way too. Now, because we've never done this before, because I don't know that I have, maybe I have, but I don't remember doing it, I'm gonna actually fry off a little piece and test it to see how I like the seasonings, to see if it's bland, to see if it needs more seasoning. So I'm gonna heat up my frying pan. I'm just gonna take a little piece and I'm gonna fry it in a pan and test it. So I have a dirty frying pan that I just made some eggs in a little while ago. So it just has a little butter in it. I'm gonna heat that up. And this is something you could do for meatloaf or meatball mix, especially if you're making for like a party. If you're gonna make 200 meatballs, like maybe take a minute and do a little fry test and test a piece just to see where you're at. I'm just waiting for this to get hot, which it isn't there yet. So I'll go wash my hand. Okay, our little test piece is all brown and crispy, and we're gonna give it a try. Delicious. I think I mentioned in my pancake video how much I love these scoops, and here's another reason to love them. They're great for this. Then all your meatballs will be the same size. So I'm not going to bake them just because, I mean, you could bake them, but I would imagine that these, because they're turkey, they might dry out. So I'm gonna fry them in a pan, which is more of a labor of love. Baking them is definitely easier because you just roll them out and bake them off. That's definitely easier. But I'm gonna fry them because I think they'll be tastier that way. This would make delicious turkey burger, even just the way I prepared it. I just fried it off and tasted it. That would be delicious on a bun with some cheese and some, lettuce and tomato, whatnot, whatever you do with your burgers normally. This would be delicious that way. You could use a similar method for a meatloaf, although when I always do a meatloaf, I always do a little fresh bread. I don't just do breadcrumbs. So I would have done less breadcrumbs and incorporated some fresh bread. Now, when we get to the end, we could put this in tomato sauce, which we might do, which is exactly how I would do a traditional meatball, right? Is I would form it into balls, I would fry it off, and I would finish cooking it in some tomato sauce, homemade or jar, doesn't matter. Another thing you could do is you could make a little roux, which if you go back to my Kitchen 101 Basics breakfast playlist, I make biscuits and gravy and I show you how to make a roux. So if you just took butter or fat and combined it with like some chicken stock or turkey stock, or fat, I'm sorry, combined with flour to make a roux, and then combined it with chicken stock or turkey stock, you could make like a turkey or chicken gravy, and you could warm these balls in that, and that would give you more of like a turkey flavored dish, right? Instead of a tomato based meatball dish, if that makes sense. Frying up part, you can fry it in whatever you like, grapeseed oil, olive oil, butter, whatever makes you happy. I'm going to use the good old EVOO. This is my 12-inch skillet. Just waiting for our olive oil to get hot. You can always test it by dropping her in. Look, no sizzle. No sizzle. She's not ready. Okay, don't crowd your pans. We're going to do 2 batches. Here's the rest of them sitting over there. So we're just going to fry them for, a minute or 2 on this side, and we'll roll them over. Just kind of try to fry them all the way around, but they're not going to get probably 100% cooked this way. Now you could, if you're just going to eat them plain like this, you could 100% cook them. I'm going to put them in some tomato sauce, or like I was saying, you can make the gravy to let them finish cooking through the center. So I'm just going to get them brown, okay? This is currently at medium-high heat, but we're going to watch it. If it starts to smoke, we'll turn it down. If it's not sizzling, we'll turn it up. And I'm going around and rolling them over. Look at how beautiful. That only took like 1 minute, right? Lovely, gorgeous. That's exactly what we're looking for. We'll do a minute over here. These are not cooked 100%. I want to reiterate that to you. These are not ready to eat. I'm going to be finishing them in sauce. I'm just going to pull them out. I'm going to put them back on this tray, even though there was raw meat, because I'm going to cook them further. If you're not going to cook them further, it's important that you do not put them back on this tray that had raw meat on it. Okay? Food safety. Do not mix raw meat and cooked meat together. But these are not finished cooking. Okay, those look pretty good. We're going to return all the balls to the pan. You could use homemade sauce. You can use jarred sauce. We're going to put sauce. Oh, that's going a little too hot. Oh, let's turn that down a little. Ooh, splattering. Then I just put a little bit of water in here and shook it up just to thin my sauce a little bit, because I'm going to cover this. I'm going to bring it up to a simmer. And then I'm going to cover it and just let it cook for maybe like 10 minutes just to get all of the flavors incorporated. The tomato sauce and the meatballs and everybody. Oh, it smells so good. So that's 10 minutes. It was covered and cooking in the sauce. Should be ready to go. Pick it up because it's so hot. Let's do a little taste test. Delicious. Tender. Tasty. Put this over some spaghetti. On a roll, make a meatball sub. So good. Turkey's just as versatile as ground beef.